Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
Welcome to the first edition of the MMA Victor Roundtable. We've got a panel of three. We're going to be focusing on the UFC 160 main card. We're going to look to get together every time there's a UFC event on, so we're only going to be covering the UFC cards. We're not going to get together for news breakdown. We're just going to be focusing on the fights. And we're all going to give our views on how we think the fights are going to play out. So the panel's going to be myself, Brooks Bailey, and UFC middleweight and TUF 17 standout Luke Barnett. Brooks, how are you?
I'm doing good, Ray.
Cool. And Luke, you?
Yeah, life's good.
Okay, let's jump in then. We'll start with the UFC 160 card is completely stacked. So we're going to start from the bottom of the main card and we're going to work up to the main event. So first of course, we've got Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus KJ Noons. I think on paper, this is a hell of an exciting fight. They're both two fighters that like to bring it. They're both known for finishing fights. KJ Noons, of course, with his boxing background, loves to knock people out. Donald Cerrone is capable of knocking people out or submitting people, as we've seen. This is such a difficult fight because KJ Noons has got outstanding boxing, but Cerrone I think is more well-rounded with his kicking and his takedowns. It's very hard for me to pick against Donald Cerrone. He's been on a hell of a run. I know he's had a couple of defeats, but for the most part he's looked very, very impressive. So I'm going to pick Cerrone to win. I don't know if he'll get the stoppage, so I'm going to go for Cerrone by unanimous decision. Luke, what are your views on this fight?
Well, with Cerrone, like I said, he's been on a bit of a tear, but I think he's just coming off a loss against Anthony Pettis. I think it was a body kick, which was very, very sharp and quick. So I think, Cerrone's such a high-level competitor, and I believe that after because it was pretty devastating the way he lost, I think he's going to come back with a lot of vengeance in his heart, and I think he's definitely going to come to finish this fight pretty quick. Noons, obviously, like you said, Noons is a pretty tough dude, and he's been around a long time, and he's always looked to finish fights, but I just think Cerrone is going to be too much. I don't think KJ Noons has fought someone like Donald Cerrone for a long time, and I think Cerrone is going to probably get a finish in the first or the second round, to be honest.
Brooks, what are your views on the fight?
I agree with both of you guys. I think that Cerrone's probably going to be a little bit too much for KJ. I think some people are, getting a little iffy on Cerrone after seeing him get boxed up by Nate Diaz and hurt pretty bad in that fight. But I think Cerrone kind of fell into Diaz's game plan there. He had him frustrated and was in his head. But I just think that Cerrone's probably going to try to stay on the outside, use a lot of kicks, get a KJ's leg dented up pretty good. And, and we've seen Cerrone in the past use some takedowns also. So, use some wrestling. I wouldn't be surprised, if he went for a few takedowns and, just to get some points if he isn't able to finish KJ. Because we've also seen KJ take a beating in the past and not be able to get finished. I think Jorge Masvidal put a pretty good beating on him and wasn't able to finish him. And I think he had him on the ropes there a few times. But so I just think that Cerrone's just on another level. I think he's probably going to end up winning by decision.
Okay, so all three of us are looking at Cerrone. Two of us have got decision. One of us has got a stoppage. We'll move on to the next fight. Another lightweight fight. Another fantastic fight on paper. We've been told that this is going to be a number one contender. So whoever wins this fight will get the next lightweight title shot. We've got Gray Maynard versus TJ Grant. Obviously, Gray is a fantastic wrestler. Has shown he can box as well. TJ Grant, as of late, has just looked like a completely different fighter. He's gone from being predominantly a BJJ fighter to someone who's now got this outstanding Muay Thai. I mean, he put on a clinic against Evan Dunham and Matt Wyman, and obviously he finished Matt Wyman. See, I'm looking at this fight, and I think if Gray Maynard takes TJ down, which we know he can do, TJ's got a very good ground game, he's good off his back, and he's going to be dangerous for submission. If Gray keeps this fight standing, I don't see how he can beat TJ's tie. I think TJ's tie is going to be too good. I think Gray's obviously going to be the favourite because he's obviously higher ranked up at the moment, but I'm going to go for the upset. I think Grant is going to pull out of the bag and is either going to get a submission or a TKO, depending on where Maynard decides to keep the fight. But I'm siding with TJ Grant for this fight. Luke, what are you thinking?
TJ Grant's been ripping through people lightweight, and that's what's got into this situation where he's fighting such a well-known fighter in Gray Maynard. But Gray Maynard works with Mike Dolce. I work with Mike as well, so anyone working with Mike right now is looking successful. I mean, you look at Johnny Hendricks, you look at Victor Belfort, you look at all the guys, he works with seem to do well. I just feel like Gray Maynard, to be honest, I can't think of anyone at the moment in the lightweight division that can beat him except for, the champ, and it's a decision I would find very, very difficult to go against Maynard. Even though TJ's a tough competitor and he's got all the right skills to beat him, I just think it'll be too much. I think the wrestling factor will come in, and a big strong man on top of you is really, really, really hard to deal with. And I think Gray Maynard will probably take a decision. I can't see him finishing the fight at all, but that's probably my prediction.
Brooks, what's your view on the fight?
I have to agree with Luke here. I'm leaning towards Gray Maynard. Obviously, as you both have said, Grant has been on an absolute tear. Even at welterweight, he was, knocking people out, and he had a pretty successful run there too. But when it comes down to lightweight, I don't think he's faced anybody on the level of Gray Maynard yet. I know Gray's had a bit of a layoff here, so I mean, who knows if there's going to be any rust involved with him. But man, I kind of agree with you, Ray. I think that TJ could surprise some people. I just think that he hasn't really faced anybody on the level of Gray yet, and I think Gray really, like Luke said, he has no problem with anybody at lightweight besides when he fought Frankie. We're talking about striking between the two. Grant's obviously got some pretty nasty striking. I think he's a gritty type fighter. Gray, I think, has great boxing. He's always been noted for his great wrestling. I think his boxing has come along, just awesome. I think that it'd be a close fight if they kept it standing, which I believe, a lot of this fight will probably take place standing. But I also believe that Gray's going to work for a lot of takedowns. I think he might not get them all, but he'll keep constant pressure on. I think he's going to end up getting some takedowns. They're going to work a lot of boxing. I just think in the end it's going to be a close fight, but I think Gray's going to come out on top.
It's going to be a great fight. So we're 2-1 now. We've got 2 going for Gray and, of course, me going for TJ Grant. Right, the next fight we're going to cover is the light heavyweight fight between Glover Teixeira and James Tahuna. Obviously, James Tahuna's coming off the win over Ryan Jimmo. Glover's coming off the win over Rampage Jackson. I mean, the fight with Rampage Jackson was quite a hard fight for Glover. I mean, and Rampage is one of those guys that's very hard to beat, and he's very tough. Obviously, he's very experienced, but obviously Glover did win the fight. But obviously the fight before that, Glover looked absolutely fantastic. James has always looked good in the UFC. He's such a powerful striker, but sometimes when he goes down to the ground, it's not always his strong point. We've seen him getting takedowns against Ryan Jimmo. I feel, for me, Glover is more well-rounded. I think he's better technical striker, but maybe not better power, but he's obviously better on the ground. I think I can see Glover getting a submission. I think he'll either drop him with a punch and sink a sub, or he'll get a takedown and sink a sub. But I'm going to go for Glover by round 2 submission. What are your views on this fight, Luke?
Well, it seems like this whole card is built up on people trying to make a name for themselves. A lot of people, like you said about the other guys, they're fighting against really well-established fighters. This one's a little bit different. Although Glover, I think he's ranked number 3 at light heavyweight, maybe 4. He's ranked pretty highly after the win over Rampage. I wouldn't say he's a very well-established fighter in the UFC. He's not that many fights. There's a lot of hype around him. A lot of people say he's the best light heavyweight ever. A lot of people that train with him say he's fantastic and the rest of it. I was actually there live when James Tahuna fought Ryan Jimmo. And James Tahuna, he's done it in a couple of fights now. He's been rocked or he's been hurt and he's come back, and he's got that will to win. And I'm really impressed by that. And I think as a fighter, like myself, something I try and emulate. When you're deep into the third round or in the second round, and you just got to push that a little bit harder to win the fight. I don't think you can really teach that. No, doesn't matter how fit you are or how good you are. You either want to win or you don't. I know that Glover's a very, very tough fight, but I just think that I'm going to go with Tahuna. I think Glover's more well-rounded. Don't get me wrong. I think he probably is the better fighter, but at the end of the day, the best fighters don't always win fights. I think Tahuna, with his tenacity and the will to win, will probably get him through this one, and I'd like to see Tahuna win it as well. So, I'm going to go for probably not a finish, but maybe he'll drag it out, especially with Glover's cardio. I wasn't that impressed with it against Rampage. So, I'd like to see a decision win for Tahuna.
What are your views on the fight, Brooks?
Man, this fight is going to be awesome. Both these guys like to stand and bang. They're both just really exciting fighters. And, I think they're probably both going to go in there and they're going to leave it all in the cage when they get in there. To be completely honest, either way, I don't think this fight lasts, past the second round, if even it makes it out of the first round. I think they're going to get in there. There are going to be some pretty heated exchanges. And, overall, I just think I think Teixeira is a little bit tougher than Tahuna. It's hard to say that. I don't really know why, but I know that Ryan Jimmo had a nice nasty head kick there on Tahuna, and he survived through that, and that was really impressive. But I just don't think that Jimmo had that killer instinct, and he didn't. He wasn't able to finish Tahuna. I think if that was the same situation with Glover, I think that Glover would be able to finish in that situation, whether he got on, dropped down and followed up with some ground and pound, or if he finished with a sub like you're talking, Ray, which I think is very possible too. I think people are forgetting, Glover does have some jiu-jitsu, and he beat Kyle Kingsbury in his debut in the UFC with a nice arm triangle choke. So I'm going to go with Tahuna could have some good moments there. I think it's going to be possibly fight of the night. I just think that Glover's going to end up catching him with something big and following him up on the mat with either some nice ground and pound or a nice submission, and probably in the first round, I'm saying.
Okay, so we've got two people there going for Glover, and we've got one there, Luke. You're pulling for the underdog in James Tahuna. Right, we'll move on to the next fight. We then move on to the co-main event, which is easily a super fight, heavyweight super fight. Junior Dos Santos versus Mark Hunt. There's been so much build-up as well in the fight because, of course, Mark Hunt's had visa problems, but we all know this fight is now going ahead. On paper, it's just going to be an amazing fight. JDS has shown what a top quality striker he is, and that's obviously what he brings to the table. Mark Hunt really has got a lot more striking experience with his K1, and has looked phenomenal in the UFC as of late. His win over Stefan Struve was just fantastic. I think obviously JDS is going to be a favourite in this fight, but the way I look at this fight is both of these guys can hit and can hit hard. Who can take the best shot? And I just feel that Mark Hunt can take more. And I think he is going to get the upset. I think he's going to turn this division on its head and is going to get a TKO stoppage over JDS. I think it's going to be an amazing fight. But I don't know. I just think it's time for a change. I think Hunt's going to get the upset, and I'm going to go for a round 2 knockout. Luke, what are your thoughts?
They're exactly the same. Mark Hunt is. Everyone's always doubted him, including myself. You look at the guy and you think, there's no way you can beat JDS. It's just not going to happen. But you've said that. I've said that a few times about a few people, and they always end up getting knocked out or getting their jaw broke. So anyone who's willing to stand in front of Mark Hunt usually is going to get knocked out. However it happens, and I think Mark Hunt's more durable, and I think he's got more power than JDS. Mark Hunt hits hard, basically. Wherever he gets it from, he hits hard. And I can can see JDS being faster and probably catching him for a little while, and everyone being a bit worried about it, and then one punch will change the fight. And I'm going to go Mark Hunt knockout. I'm probably going to go for a first round, late in the first round, last minute of the round, to be honest. When JDS gets a bit complacent, I think he'll get knocked out.
Brooks, what are your views on the fight?
Well, I'm going to have to go in the other direction. On paper, I mean, this fight looks like just a horrible matchup for Junior Dos Santos. I mean, we've got another striker that's K1 level world champion. I mean, he's got a chin like no one. I mean, you could hit this guy in the head with a baseball bat and he probably wouldn't fall down. The whole thing is, I think we've seen, I don't know if people will like this comparison, but JDS has fought against Roy Nelson in the past. And I think Roy Nelson in some ways is a lot like Mark Hunt in the fact that, those guys both got that chin, they're pretty much impossible to knock out. And they both, where I don't think Roy's probably as technically sound as Mark Hunt when it comes to striking, but he can hit and he can hit hard. And we've seen that on numerous occasions. I think the thing that makes the difference is that JDS is a lot faster. He's a smart boxer. I think that he's smart enough not to get hit with anything big. And we've also seen JDS use some takedowns in the past. I think it was against Shane Carwin, and I don't even think he was in any danger of being knocked out, or he wasn't in any danger on the feet either. He was just I think he just had something he wanted to show people he could do. So, if he's getting frustrated, because I know he ain't able to knock Mark Hunt out. I think if he's getting frustrated, he might even, resort to some takedowns, because, he's going to have to win this fight on points. I've seen the countdown. He's talking about how he's going to finish Mark Hunt. Well, I don't see it happening. He doesn't use jiu-jitsu. He says he's got jiu-jitsu. He's supposedly a black belt, but I haven't seen anything in the past that, shows me that he can actually do anything with jiu-jitsu. And don't get me wrong, I'll be rooting for Mark Hunt. I've always been a huge Mark Hunt fan. But I just don't think that, he's going to be able to keep the pace up with JDS. I think JDS is just going to outbox him and maybe get a few takedowns and end up winning by decision.
Okay, so we've got one going for JDS, two picking the upset with Mark Hunt, but I think all of us are rooting for Mark Hunt as well. Okay, we'll move on to the main event. Cain Velasquez versus Antonio Bigfoot Silva. Obviously, this is a rematch, and the first fight was very, very one-sided, and a lot of people are criticising the matchup for that reason. But I personally think that Bigfoot has earned this fight. I mean, I know Travis Brown got injured during the fight, but Bigfoot still had to go in there and win. And of course, his knockout of Alistair Overeem shocked a lot of people. And I think Overeem was a little bit complacent and was getting tired a bit towards the end. But Bigfoot, again, still had to hang in there and throw the combo that knocked Overeem out. So I definitely think he deserves to be in this fight. But saying that, I don't see how this fight is going to be any different from the first. I don't even think it's 12 months ago they fought. It's not like it's been a couple of years, so a lot's going to have changed. I think Cain's going to come out, he's going to work the strike and get the takedown as soon as he can, and he's going to finish off Bigfoot. I just hope there's not as much good as what there was last time. But I'll be very shocked if Bigfoot was able to pull this out. I'm going to be picking Cain Velasquez by a round 1 TKO, pretty similar to the way the first fight went. Luke, what are your views on this fight?
I mean, find a man who tells me that Antonio Silva is going to win this fight, and I'll call him an idiot to his face. It's pretty ridiculous. I think he's earned the fight. Don't get me wrong. Like you said, the win over, like you said, his win with that knockout was pretty impressive, and it shocked the world. But I don't see what's changed. I don't see what gives him the right to say, I think I can beat him this time after the way he lost last time. I think Cain is, almost a new breed of heavyweight. With he's not he's not 260 pounds. He's a lot smaller, a lot more agile, and can keep his cardio going for 5 rounds. I don't know what round it's going to be. I don't know how it's going to happen, but Cain Velasquez is going to win no matter what. I'm more certain on that fight than I am on any other one on the card, which probably means I'm going to get it wrong. But Cain Velasquez by however he wants, to be honest.
Brooks, what are your views on this fight?
I definitely agree with you guys. I'm definitely going to go with Kane in this fight. I don't think it's going to be exactly like their last fight. I think that cut that Bigfoot had was a huge game changer in that fight. I think that, with how much blood was coming out of there and everything, obviously that's going to affect any fight. Man, when I think of Bigfoot, I just think of that fight against Fedor. That was amazing. I mean, he dominated Fedor. He's been a huge underdog in his last 2 fights. I'm not quite sure how he was an underdog against Travis Brown, but apparently he was. And he came through. I think he's got a lot more confidence coming into this fight. So, I think that he'll be able to hold his ground a little bit better against Cain. But when it comes to Cain Velasquez, I mean, in my opinion, I think he's the best heavyweight on the planet. I picked him against his first fight in JDS. Obviously, that didn't, go as planned. I think he was probably injured. He didn't make excuses after the fight, but we could see that there was something wrong. And then in the second fight, I mean, I think that's where his true colors came out. I picked him again, and he came through that time with, he terrorized JDS that whole fight. But I just think that he's one of those guys. He's kind of like a phenom, and anything can happen in the heavyweight division. These guys are so big. If one guy lands a clean shot, you're probably going down. But I think Cain's a great fighter. He's got great striking. He's really fast, and he's got great wrestling. So he's really well rounded. I think I see Cain putting him on his back a lot. I don't think he'll be afraid to stand with him at all. He'll probably do some boxing, but, I think, like I said, I think Bigfoot's going to be able to hold his ground a little bit better. And as long as he doesn't get cut like he did last time, which, those kind of cuts don't happen very often where the blood's squirting like that, I think he'll survive a lot. I think he might even be able to survive to a decision. And I think that's what I'm going to pick for now.
Okay, that's all 3 of us picking Cain. 2 of us by stoppage. 1 of us is going for a decision. Obviously, that's our views. Brooks, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Ray. And it's good hearing Luke there, too.
Luke, thank you for joining us today, mate.
No problem, mate. I look forward to doing the rest of it, and hopefully I'm not too wrong this time.
Right, that's all our views then. If you think you can do better than us, there's only one way to prove it. Get over to MMA Victor, put your picks in, and see if you can pick the fights better than what myself, Brooks and Luke did. Thank you for listening.